Okay, we're up to Daf Tzadi Gimel Amid Aleph, a few lines into the page. Gufa, Amr of Abba, Rav Yehuda Shmuel, Chaylev Shabbasar Chayfa Oisem Mutter. On the flank, there's fat there, and then there's a layer of fat between two layers of muscle. Because the muscle covers the fat, that's not considered Chaylev and it's Mutter. Okay, so Rav Yehuda Shmuel says that fat is Mutter. It's not Chaylev. Eini, is this true? Amr of Abba, Rav Yehuda Shmuel, Hatarba de Tuti Masni Aser. Didn't Rav Yehuda or Shmuel say the same person say the chaylev that is under the loins is aser? So he's referring Pashas to the same fat. It's under the loins, so it's under muscle, and he said aser. So what's going on? So Amar Abaye behema b'chaya pruki mefarka. Abaye says no. The chaylev that is always covered by flesh is mutter. He said that the fat that is under the loins is aser. That says apparently by the loins when the animal moves, it exposes and the muscles constrict and move. It reveals some of the fat. So some of the fat actually gets revealed, and that's why it's a problem. Rav Yechanan says, "I know I'm not a butcher. I'm not the son of a butcher." When I hear the Hachiyam Rebbe Midrashos, I can't tell you exactly what, but I can tell you what I heard in the Beis Medrash. The animal is alive, its limbs move, and it reveals some of the fat by the loins. That's why that chaylev is a problem. But the other fat that's completely covered by muscle, which is never exposed, that's going to be mutter. Amr of Abba, Rav Yehuda Shmuel, chaylev shal hemsis ubeis hakoisis, asur and v'anush karis. The beis hakoisis and the hemsis are two of the stomachs of the cow, and the fat that's on top of those stomachs is aser, and it's chayv karis because it's mamish chaylev. V'zeu chaylev shala kerev, and this is what the Torah calls the chaylev that's on the kerev. Amr of Abba, Rav Yehuda Shmuel, Haitarba de kilbusta, aser v'anush karis. The fat of the kilbusta, it's apparently by the end of the spinal column above the hip. There's a small bone, and there's apparently fat on top of it. That's aser, and it's chayiv kares. V'zeu chaylev shala ksalim, and that's what the pasuk refers to, the chaylev on top of the ksalim. Amr of Abba, Rav Yehuda Shmuel, chutin shebiyad, the blood vessels, the threads that are in the shebiyad, that are in one of the hands of the animal, I guess in the front leg of the animal, asur and they're aser. Now the Gemara understands the fact that you're saying they're aser implies they're always aser. Now why would they be aser? It must be the Gemara understands that they must be chaylev. They're threads, and they must be threads of fat. Amr of Safar. If Safar says Moshe was a term that they gave to Big Rabban Moshe. Yamar Achman Leisechel Bizra. Well, the Torah says you can't eat a meat with a little bit of fat in it. Meaning, in other words, what's the problem here? I don't believe that it's not chaylev. It's pasha, not fat. So what's the issue? Amr Rava. So Rava responds like this: the truth is, it's not chaylev. The issue is the thick blood vessels. So the problem is blood. So when he said it's a problem, he meant it's a problem unless you salt it. Moshe mi Amr Achman Achol Dama. Did the Torah say to eat blood? Meaning, it's not a fat issue, it's blood. So if you want to eat it, there is an eitzah. Because it is blood, the eitzah is chatche, to cut open the blood vessel, malche, and fill it up with salt. Then you could eat it. It's not fat, because then it'll be aser always. It's a blood vessel. And therefore, as long as you cut it open and salt it, it should be okay. Amr of Yehuda Shmuel, Reish Maya Ba'amsa Ba'igreda. So apparently this is the end of the cava, the last stomach. It connects to the intestines, and before it gets to like the turny intestine parts, there's apparently like a thick tube that connects it. That tube is called the Reish Maya. So Rav Yehuda Shmuel says the Reish Maya Ba'amsa, the first amma length of the Reish Maya, is boigreda. You have to scrape off the fat, meaning the fat that's on top of the Reish Maya is a problem. V'zeu chaylev sh'ala dakin, and that fat is the chaylev on the dakin that the Torah describes. From Rav Yehuda, Rav Yehuda says chutin shebu'ukitz asurin, the threads that are in the hips, they're a problem. Now the issue over here, that these threads pass through the chaylev, and therefore they're also derabanan, because I guess they're too similar to chaylev. So these threads that go through the hip, the nerves that branch out from the lower spine, apparently are also derabanan because they get too close to chaylev, or they get through the chaylev. So chamisha chute isei bekatva. The truth is there are 5 threads in the flank. Tlasam yamina, 3 on the right side, v'tarta mismala, and 2 on the left side. what's interesting is that the 3 on the right side and 2 on the left side, but tlasa mefatzil trey. The 3 on the right side branch out into sets of 2, and the trey mefsali tlasa, and the 2 on the left side branch out into sets of 3. So it's 3 which branches out into 2, and 2 which branches out into 3. So the Gemara says, who cares how many they branch out? Just tell me to remove them. What's the nafkamina? 3 and 2 and 2 and 3. So the Gemara, I'll tell you the nafkamina. If you remove it when the animal was just shechted, when the animal's still like hot, then they'll just slide right out. But if you wait till the animal cools down, then they harden and then they could snap. So you're going to have to go in with like pliers and like pull them out. So you have to know how many they are, because if you, let's say, there are 3 and you only pull out 2, it's not enough. So where it says, nafkamina, di yishalflu ad dechamim yishtalfi, v'loi boi chatuta basrayu. Amr Abai v'tem Rav Yehuda, chamisha chutei havim. There are 5 threads. Now, throughout the animal, there are 5 groups of prohibited threads. Tlasa mishum tarba, 3 of the 5 are also because of chaylev, and trin mishum dama. And 2 are a problem because they're blood vessels. So 3 of them pass through chaylev, so it's a problem of chaylev, they're abanon, and 2 of them are a problem because of blood vessels. So the animal has 5, 3 are chaylev, 2 are blood. Now this is the rule. The tchale u de kafle u de kulsolie mishum tarba. The ones that are a problem of fat are the spleen, the flanks, and the kidneys. The yoda deluya mishum dama. The leg and the jaw, that's going to be because of blood. So those 5, 3 are chaylev, 2 are blood. So the Gemara says, who cares whether it's chaylev or blood? L'may nafkamina. So the Gemara says, hani mishum dama yimchatlchu malchu shaber dami hanach lasatakanta. I'll tell you the difference. If it's chaylev, then it's going to be also no matter what. But if it's right, you can't fix it. But if it's because of blood, then you could salt it, and then it'll be mutter. Amr of Kana v'yitem Rav Yehuda chamisha karmi hava. There are 5 prohibited membranes in the animal. Tlasa mishum tarba, 3 of them are also because of chaylev. Utrei mishum dama, and 2 are because of blood. This is the rule. The tchale, the kafle, the kusole, the spleen, the flanks, and the kidneys, the membranes on them, that's chaylev. The beya udemukra, and the testicles and the brain, the membrane is also mishum dama, is also because of blood. So the Gemara says the following Maisa. Apparently a spleen is thicker on one end and then thinner on the other. It has a membrane on both. Okay? Now, yeah. So the Gemara says like this. Rav Yehuda bar Oishia have a kakalifle tachla levi braid Rav Yehuda bar Chia. Rav Yehuda bar Oishia was peeling off the membrane for the spleen for Levi, the son of Chia. Rav Yehuda bar Chia. Now have a kam loy me loy. So he was apparently only removing the upper membrane, but not the lower membrane. So he felt that the lower membrane is fine. Amr Le, Levi said to him, Chus beitvei, you have to remove the lower membrane as well. Osavu ashkeche, so Levi's father comes and finds him telling him to remove the entire membrane, even the lower part. Amr Le, Hachi Amr Avua, Diimach Mishum de Rav. You should know, your mother's father said in the name of Rav. Who is your mother's father? Manu Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba. The only thing that's aser is the membrane on the dad, which is the upper membrane of the spleen. In other words, you do not have to remove the lower membrane. The upper membrane is all that needs to be removed. Says the Gemara, Any, is this true? That, by the way, when I say upper and lower, if you look at the pictures, it's like sort of the top little part where the blood vessels enter. That's the thicker part, and that's the aladad. The other part is the rest of it that's thinner. So, Any, is this true that you only have to remove the fat of the aladad, the thicker part? Amr Rav Hamnuna Tana. Didn't Rav Hamnuna say krum shalatchul aser? The membrane that's on the spleen is aser. But you're not chayiv kares. It's aser derabanan. Hahechi dami. Well, I understand, right? Till now you're telling me there's 2 parts. There's aladad and the rest of the membrane. So you tell me aladad is chayiv. That's aser deraisa. The other part is mutter. So this brisa doesn't make any sense. Rav Hamnuna is quoting a brisa that says that the membrane on top of it is also derabanan. Now, it can't be referring to the aladad part because that's also deraisa. It must be referring to the rest of it. You see, it's also derabanan. So you have to remove the entire membrane, not just the aladad part. So Amrle, Itanya Tanya. So he said to his son Levi, okay, if that's a brisa, then I back out. Says the Gemara Gufa, Amrav Hamnuna Tana, Krum Shalatchul Aser. The membrane that's on the spleen is Aser, but it's not Chayiv Kares, it's Aser Derabanan. Krum Shagabe Kulya Aser. The membrane that's on the kidney is Aser, but Chayiv again Aser Derabanan. Vatanya, so the spleen the spleen and the kidney, the membrane on top is also derabanan. But isn't there a brayso that says that the spleen and the kidney, the membrane is chayv alav? It is asa deraisa. So this brayso says asa derabanan, the other one says asa deraisa. It's a contradiction. So Gemara says tchul atchul kasha. When it comes to the spleen, it's not a contradiction because we already got finished saying there's two parts. There's aladad and the thinner part. So aladad membrane is asa deraisa. The thinner part is asa derabanan. Hakeneged adad, hashalekheneged adad. But kulya namile kasha. When it comes to the spleen, the kidney, also it's not a contradiction. Habilah habitata. This is the upper membrane of the kidney, and that's chayv kares. The lower member of the kidney is only asa derabanan. Okay. Bei chashilta. Okay, so you have these testicles of the animal that they get damaged, and they're almost fully detached, but they're kind of holding on inside the animal. So the Gemara says, Rav Ami v'Rav Asi, it's a machloikes, chad aser v'chad shari. One says aser, one says mutter. Now, what's the shaila of one says mutter, aser? It's a shaila of evim and achai, because if the testicle is fully detached while they're in the animal, it's evim and achai, because you may not access it until the animal shechted, but it was technically an aver that came out from a living animal. If it's fully attached, that's every animal, it's fine. Over here, it's mostly detached, but still holding on. So the opinion says that aser is because he looks at it as evim and achai. Manda asa, the one who says that it's aser, go to the next page. Midaloi kabarian, he says, for the very fact that it will never heal and reattach fully, the fact that it's an irreversible damage shows you that it's already considered detached in halacha and it's evim and achai. Madashari, the one who says it's mutter, he says no, it's considered attached in halacha. Why? The one who says that it's partially attached, partially not attached. So the one who says that it's considered detached is because it'll never heal. The one who says that it's considered attached, midalika masachano, doesn't smell. If it was taka detached, you would smell the decay. Sahani chiyusa isle. It must be that it's still living, it's still connected. V'idach, the one who says that it's considered detached, what about the fact that you don't smell? He says, well, you don't smell because it's encased within the animal, because there's no exposure. If you taka were exposed to it, it would smell. V'idach, and the other opinion says that it's considered attached. What about the fact that it will never heal? It's because he says that just the animal is weak, meaning they are connected, but there's a weakness that the body has gone through that it cannot recover, but its taka is still attached in halacha. This case is mutter, but don't eat it. Meaning, even though it's technically mutter, but don't eat it. Why? You have to follow the minig of Klal Yisrael, and the minig of Bavel was to not eat the testicles in such a situation. Amr Mabra Avashi, Hanibeya Degadia, regarding the testicles of a young goat. Until the goat is 30 days old, Sharian B'lei Klipa. You could eat it full, even without peeling it. There's no blood for the first 30 days. Mekan ve'elech, from that point forward, zarin. If the animal develops zera, semen, then it's aser because that means it has blood vessels and it's a problem of dam. Eloy azrin, but if the animal has not yet developed semen, then it's sharian. That there's no blood and it's fine. Now, how are you supposed to know whether the animal developed the ability to have zera? So the Gemara says, look at it. If you see streaks of red, then it's aser. Less be suriki sumki sharian. But if there's no streaks of red, that means there's no blood, and then it's mutter. Now a piece of raw meat with a red discoloration because of ruptured blood vessels, and beya and testicles, they also have ruptured blood vessels. Umizraki, or the blood vessels have ruptured on the neck. It's the machlokes of Achav Ravina. Now we'll see what exactly the machlokes is. But before we get to what the machlokes is, the Gemara just gives a rule. Generally throughout the Torah, when these Amoraim argue, it's Ravina Lakula, Ravacha Lachumra. Ravina is always the one who's Mekel, Ravacha is always the one who's Machmer, V'hilchas Ravina Lakula, and the halacha always follows Ravina who's Mekel. The Bar Mahanitzlas, except for these three cases of the discoloration, Ravacha Lakula, Ravina Lachumra, it's the opposite. Ravacha is the one who's Mekel, and Ravina is the one who's Machmer, V'hilchas Ravacha Lakula. And we pass in like the Mekel one. We're always Mekel, but over here the names are reversed. Now, what is the machlekes? The machlekes is like this: when you have an animal, a general piece of meat, you have to salt it if you want to cook it. Now, if you want to roast it over spit, over fire, you could just roast it. You just have to put a little bit of salt, like flavor, but you don't have to actually salt it. The Gemara over here is talking about a case where you're putting it on hot coals. Now, if you put it on hot coals, that's generally okay. The question is whether it's okay in this case because it has discoloration. The question is, if you were to take these discoloration pieces from the testicles, the neck, or a ruptured blood vessel, and you were to put it over a spit, over the coal, roasting over fire, it'll drip out. The blood will drip out, and it's kosher. Over here, you put it on coals. The machlekes is whether the blood leaves or is it a problem. Umsa de ismik, a regular piece of raw meat that turned red because of a ruptured blood vessel. If you did malicha, it's fine. Now, similarly, if you roasted it on a spit over fire so that the blood can drip out, it's also mutter, even without salting it. Agumri, the machlekes, Ravina and Ravacha, is you roasted on hot coals. One opinion says that the heat draws out the blood, and therefore it's kosher even though you didn't do a malicha. And one says no, that the heat actually shrivels up the meat and it retains the collected blood, and therefore it's a problem. Reisha bekivsha, regarding a head, when the animals used to have, they have hair on their head, so the way they would get rid of the hair is they would put it in hot coals. Now the question is, you put it on hot coals at the same time that you're removing the hair, do we say that the blood is being removed by the hot coals, sort of like roasting over coals? The Gemara says, here's the rule. If you put it with the cut of the neck on the actual ashes, on the actual heat, so then doiv dama v'shari, then the blood flows out, because basically you put the slit of the neck on the coals, the blood will spill out. Atzdadim, but if you put the skull at the side, mikav kafiv aser, then the problem is there's no holes on the side, so then the blood just puddles in the head, and therefore it's a problem. Oisvi anachiri, the shaila is, if you put it on the nostrils, then here's the rule. Datzbe midi, if you put something in the nostrils to keep the nostrils open, shari, the blood will flow through the nostrils and it'll be permitted, even without malicha. V'loy aser, but if you didn't put anything to hold the nostrils up, then it's a problem. Ikadami, some have a different version to be a little more makel. Anachiri v'abes ashchita doiv. According to this version, if you put on the nostrils, it's completely mutter. Atstadin, if you put the head on its side, idatzbe midi shari, if you made a hole in the side of the skull, punctured it so that the blood can flow, then it's mutter. V'loy aser, but if not, it's going to be aser. Says the Gemara Vayter, Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Shnei Gidin. There are two sinews that run through the thigh. Hapnimi samach le'etzem, the pnimi which is close to the bone, that's aser v'chayven alav. That is the Ginanasha deraisa. Chitzain, but the outer one, which is in the flesh, aser ve'ein chayven alav, that's only aser derabanan. So the pnimi is by the bone, the chitzain is by the basar. Vatanya, wait a minute, pnimi samach lebasar. Doesn't the Brisa call the pnimi one samach lebasar? You said pnimi is samach lebon. Over here it's samach lebasar. Rav Kahana, iklid miklid. It's like a key, where the key goes in, so it basically passes through. In other words, most of the sinew is by the bone. Part of it at the end is by the basar, so they called it by the basar, but it's really the one that's by the bone. So then the outer one is by the flesh. Vatanya chitzan asamach le'atzem. But doesn't the Brisa call the outer one close to the bone? Not the outer one close to the flesh. No, the outer one is always by the flesh. The reason why he calls it samach lebon, that's where the butcher cut it open, so then it's closer to the hip bone, because he cut away, I guess, from the actual meat itself. Itmar tavach shenim tzachei levachrav. Let's say you have a butcher who, after he prepared the food, so it's supposed to be kosher, you found the chaylev. So he obviously messed up. So Rav Yehuda Amar b'ksaira, he's punished if he even left a barley amount of chaylev. Rav Yechon Amar kazai. So Yechon says no, he's only punished if it's a kazai, so much more. So Amar Rav Papa v'lei pligi. Rav Papa says not a machlekes. Kan lahal kaisai, to give him lashes. Now this is not biblical lashes. This is like rabbinical lashes for being negligent or maybe even on purpose. So then it's even the size of a that's a kazayis. La'avroi, but to not punish him physically, but just to remove him from his position, to fire him, that's even for a sire. So basically, if you have a barley amount of fat, you'll lose your job. But if you leave a kazayis in there, they might hit you. Amr of Zutra, Kisayra Makam Echad. He has a different shot. But Zutra says, a barley is even in one location enough to get you fired. Kazayis afil b'shnayim shanam kamis. The measure of a kazayis that we said to get hit, that's even if it's not a kazayis makam echad. That's a cumulative kazayis. The hilchasa, the halacha is lahalkoisai b'kazayis lahavi b'kasayra, like we said. Then the Mishnah said tabachim are not nemon, and the Rav Yehuda says, Rameir says that the butchers are not trusted regarding Ginanasha. The Chum say they are. Rav Chibar Amar Rav Yechanan chazu loy min nemonim. They changed their mind, and the butchers are now trusted. Now the Gemara clarifies. Amr Nachman, Achshure Dari. I understand. Pashas are saying that Rameir says they're not Neman, but then Rameir said they are Neman. What, they got better? They got more from as time went on. Achshure Dari, all of a sudden, is more from as time goes on. It's the opposite. There's the Yeridas Adaris. So the Gemara says no. Mikara have a savri like Rameir. Originally, they felt they passing like Rameir. Rameir Shita is that removing the Gid Anasha, you have to remove all the side sinews. So it's very difficult. If you just have to remove the one main strip, very easy. If you pass it like Rameir that you have to remove all the side chutin, much more difficult. Originally, they passed it like Rameir that you have to remove all the side chutin, and therefore le'amin, therefore they would not trust the butchers. But eventually, the Rabbanan changed their mind. And they say, no, we pass it like Rav Yehuda. You don't have to remove all the side sinews; just the main sinew has to be removed, and therefore here they're neman. Some have a different version that was actually in the Seifa in the Mishnah regarding Chaylev. The Chum say that the butchers are trusted regarding Chaylev, not just regarding Gid Anasha. According to this version, the Rabbana originally said Neman, and they said not Neman. Amr Nachman, Bezan Hazen Neman. Then Rav Nachman said, it went from Neman to not Neman back to Neman. So the Gemara says, Achshuri Dari, I don't understand. What's the evolution? So, originally they held like Rav Yehuda that it just suffices to remove the Gid Anasha. The main Gid Anasha. I guess about the Gid Anasha as well. Originally it was just the Gid Anasha, and therefore they were Neman. Then they said, no, we pass the Rameir, you have to remove all the side sinews, not Neman. But Kama Tahava Dechir Lo Rav Yehuda Le Mehemna. You see, when they said that originally they passed like Rav Yehuda, all you have to remove is the main strips, so they were Neman. Then they said, no, we pass like Rameir, so you have to remove all the side strips. Then much more challenging, they said not Neman. But the reason why they were not Neman is not because it's hard like Rameir, is because the butcher still remembered the time where they held like Rav Yehuda, so they weren't in the zone to remove the side strips. But Hashad de Anshe Rav Yehuda Mehemna, then they eventually forgot the Rav Yehuda's method. They forgot to just remove the main thing. They got so used to removing the side strips, then they're back to being Neman. Okay, so the flow of the whole Nemanis was always about the Gid Anasha, but then the Mishnah says Ala Chaylev. They're also Neman Al Chaylev. So the Gemara just speaks it out. Chaylev Mandakash, but where did Chaylev come from? Thought we're talking about Gid Anasha. So the Gemara says Halchi Komar. Ein Nemanim Alav Al Chaylev. Chamaim Neman Alav Al Chaylev. It just means the same Achloikas regarding Gid Anasha applies to Chaylev as well. Rameir holds they're not Neman. The Chum hold they are. I'll stop here.